Number 5376. Because the famine was sore in all the earth. This signifies that everywhere there was desolation in the natural, as is evident from the signification of famine, namely desolation, see above, and from the signification of earth, namely the natural, see also above. Its being everywhere else except in the external knowledges where the celestial of the spiritual was, follows from what goes before. The desolation of the natural, or the deprivation of truth there, has already been explained. But as the same subject is continued in what follows, it must be explained again. The man who is born within the Church from earliest childhood learns from the Word and from the doctrinals of the Church what the truth of faith is, and also what the good of charity. But when he grows up to manhood, he begins either to confirm or to deny in himself the truths of faith that he has learned. For he then examines these truths for himself, and thereby either appropriates or rejects them. For nothing can become one's own except as the result of his own inspection, that is, unless he knows it to be so from himself, and not from somebody else. And therefore the truths learned from childhood enter no further into the man's life than the threshold, from which they can either be admitted more interiorly, or else be cast out. With those who are being regenerated, that is, who the Lord foresees will suffer themselves to be regenerated, these truths are greatly multiplied, for these persons are in the affection of knowing truths. But when they come nearer to the very act of regeneration, they are, as it were, deprived of these truths, for these are drawn inward, and then the man appears to be in desolation. Nevertheless, as regeneration goes on, these truths are successively brought back into the natural, and are there conjoined with good. But with those who are not being regenerated, that is, who the Lord foresees will not suffer themselves to be regenerated, truths are indeed usually multiplied, for these persons are in the affection of knowing such things for the sake of reputation, honor, and gain. Yet when they advance in years and submit these truths to their own inspection, they then either do not believe them, or they deny them, or they convert them into falsities. In these men, therefore, truths are not withdrawn inward, but are cast forth, although they still remain in the memory for the sake of worldly ends, though they are lifeless. This state also is called in the word desolation or vastation, but it differs from the former state because the desolation of the former is only apparent, while the desolation of the latter is absolute. For in the former state man is not deprived of truths, while in the latter state he is entirely deprived of them. The desolation of the former state has been treated of in the internal sense in this chapter, and is still further treated of in the following one, and is what is signified by the famine of 7 years. This same desolation is often treated of in other parts of the word, as in Isaiah. Awake, awake, O Jerusalem, who has drunk at the hand of Jehovah the cup of his anger. 2 things are befallen thee, who shall bemoan thee? Desolation and destruction, famine and the sword, how shall I comfort thee? Thy sons have fainted, they lie at the top of all the streets. Therefore hear, do this, thou afflicted and drunken one, but not with wine. Behold, I have taken out of thy hand the cup of trembling, the dregs of the cup of my wrath. Thou shalt no more drink it again, but I will put it into the hand of them that make thee sad. In this passage is described the state of desolation of the member of the church who is becoming a church, or who is being regenerated. This desolation is called desolation, destruction, famine, sword, and also the cup of the anger and wrath of Jehovah, and the cup of trembling. The truths of which he is then deprived are the sons who faint, and lie at the top of the streets. That suns or truths may be seen above, and that streets are where truths are. Hence, to lie at the top of all the streets means that truths appear to be dispersed. It is evident that this desolation is only apparent, and that by it, as by temptations, regeneration is effected. For it is said that she shall no more drink, but that he will put the cup into the hand of them that make her sad. In Ezekiel, Thus hath said the Lord Jehovah, because they lay waste and swallow you up on every side, that ye be an inheritance unto the remnant of the nations. Therefore, ye mountains of Israel, hear the word of the Lord Jehovah. Thus hath said the Lord Jehovah to the mountains and to the hills, to the watercourses and to the valleys, and to the desolate wastes and to the cities that are forsaken, which became a prey and derision to the remnant of the nations that are round about. I have spoken in my zeal and in my wrath, because ye have borne the reproach of the nations. Surely the nations that are round about you, these shall bear their reproach. But ye mountains of Israel shall put forth your branch and yield your fruit to my people Israel. For behold, I am with you, and I will have regard unto you, that ye may be tilled and sown. And I will multiply man upon you, the whole house of Israel. And the cities shall be inhabited, and the waste places builded. I will cause you to dwell according to your times of old, and will do better to you than at your beginnings. Here also the subject treated of is the desolation that precedes regeneration. The desolation being signified by the desolate wastes and the cities that are forsaken, which became a prey and derision. But regeneration being signified by putting forth branch and yielding fruit, by having regard unto them that may be tilled and sown, that man may be multiplied, the cities inhabited and the waste places built, and by causing them to dwell according to their times of old, and doing better to them than at their beginning. The case in regard to desolation is plain from those who are in desolation in the other life. They who are in desolation there are harassed by evil spirits and genii, who pour in persuasions of evil and falsity until they are almost overwhelmed, the result being that truths do not appear. But as the time of desolation draws to a close, they are enlightened by light from heaven. And in this way the evil spirits and genii are driven away, every one into his own hell, where they undergo punishments. These are the things signified by the cities becoming a prey and derision to the remnant of the nations that are round about, and by the nations that are round about bearing their reproach. And above in Isaiah, by the cup being put into the hand of them that make her sad, and also in other passages in Isaiah, by the waster being laid waste. Also in Jeremiah, I will visit upon the waters, and will make them everlasting desolations. In Isaiah, thy destroyers will hasten thy sons, and thy wasters shall go forth from thee. Lift up thine eyes round about and see, all gather together, they come to thee. For as to thy wastes, and the land of thy destruction, thou shalt be too straitened for an inhabitant. They that swallow thee up shall be far away. Here again, and in this whole chapter, the subject treated of is the desolation of those who are being regenerated, and their regeneration and fruitfulness after desolation, and lastly the punishment of those who oppressed them. In the same, woe to thee that layeth waste when thou art not laid waste. When thou hast ceased to lay waste, thou shalt be laid waste. Meaning that they who vastate are punished, as above. In the same, let mine outcasts tarry in thee, Moab, be thou a covert to them before the waster, for the oppressor hath ceased, the wasting is ended. Again, the day of Jehovah is near, it shall come as a wasting from Shaddai. A wasting from Shaddai denotes vast station in temptations. That God as to temptations was by the ancients called Shaddai may be seen above. Again, then they shall not thirst, he shall lead them in wastes, he shall cause the waters to flow out of the rock for them, and he will cleave the rock that the waters flow out. Speaking of the state after desolation. Again, Jehovah will comfort Zion, he will comfort all the wastes thereof, so as to make the wilderness thereof as Eden, and the solitude thereof as the garden of Jehovah. Gladness and joy shall be found therein, confession and the voice of a song. Here the subject treated of is the same, for as before said, desolation is to the end that the man may be regenerated. That is, that after evils and falsities are separated, truths may be conjoined with goods, and goods with truths. The regenerate man as to good is what is compared to Eden, and as to truths to the garden of Jehovah. In David, Jehovah hath made me come up out of the pit of devastation, out of the mire of clay, and hath set my feet upon a rock. The vastation and desolation of the member of the church, or of the church in man, was represented by the captivity of the Jewish people in Babylon, and the raising up of the church by the return from that captivity, as frequently described in Jeremiah, especially in chapter 32, verse 37 to the end. For desolation is captivity, the man then being kept as it were bound, and therefore by those bound in prison and in the pit are signified those who are in desolation. The state of desolation and vastation with those who are not being regenerated is also frequently treated of in the Word. This is the state of those who deny truths or convert them into falsities. And this is the state of the church towards its end, when there is no longer any faith or charity. Thus in Isaiah, I will make known to you what I will do to my vineyard, in removing the hedge thereof, so that it shall be eaten up, in breaking through the fence thereof, that it may be trodden down. I will then make it a desolation, it shall not be pruned nor hoed, that there may come up briar and shrub. Nay, I will command the clouds, that they rain no rain upon it. In the same, tell this people, hear ye indeed, but understand not, and see ye indeed, but know not. Make the heart of this people fat, and make their ears heavy, and smear over their eyes, lest they see with their eyes and hear with their ears, and their heart should understand, and they should be converted and be healed. Then said I, Lord, how long? And he said, until the cities be devastated, that they be without inhabitant, and the houses, that there be no man in them, and the land be reduced to a solitude. Jehovah will remove man, and the desert shall be multiplied in the midst of the land. Scarcely a 10th part shall be in it any more, and yet it shall be for destruction. In the same, the remnant shall return, the remnant of Jacob, unto the mighty God, for a consummation is decreed, overflowing with righteousness. For a consummation and a decree shall the Lord Jehovah Zebaoth make in all the earth. Again, Jehovah maketh the earth void, and maketh it empty, and will overturn the face thereof. The earth shall be utterly void, the habitable earth shall mourn, shall be confounded. The world shall languish and be confounded, a curse shall devour the earth. The new wine shall mourn, the vine shall languish. That which is left in the city shall be a waste. The gate shall be smitten even to devastation. The earth is utterly broken. The earth is utterly broken in pieces. The earth is moved exceedingly. The earth reeleth to and fro like a drunkard. Again, the paths are devastated, the wayfaring man ceaseth, the land mourneth and languisheth. Lebanon is ashamed and withered away, Sharon is become like a desert. Again, I will make desolate and swallow up together. I will make waste mountains and hills, and dry up all their herb. In Jeremiah, I will give to the curse all the nations round about, and will make them a desolation and a derision and perpetual wastes. I will take from them the voice of joy and the voice of gladness, the voice of the bridegroom and the voice of the bride, the voice of the millstones and the light of the lamp, that the whole land may be a desolation and a devastation. It shall come to pass when 70 years are fulfilled, that I will visit their iniquity upon the king of Babylon, and upon this nation, and upon the land of the Chaldees, and will make it everlasting desolations. In the same, Bozrah shall become a desolation, a reproach, a waste, and a curse, and all the cities thereof shall become perpetual wastes. Edom shall be a desolation, every one that goeth by it shall be amazed, and shall hiss at all the plagues thereof. In Ezekiel, thus saith the Lord to the inhabitants of Jerusalem concerning the land of Israel, They shall eat their bread with solicitude, and drink their waters with amazement, that her land may be devastated from its fullness, because of the violence of all them that dwell therein. The cities that are inhabited shall be devastated, and the land shall be made desolate. Again, when I shall make thee a desolate city, like the cities that are not inhabited, when I shall make the deep come up against thee, and many waters shall cover thee, and I shall make thee go down with them that descend into the pit, to the people of old time, and shall make thee to dwell in the earth of the lower things, for a desolation from eternity with them that go down into the pit. Speaking of Tyre, in Joel, a day of darkness and of thick darkness, a day of cloud and of obscurity, a fire devoureth before him, and behind him a flame burneth. The land is as the Garden of Eden before him, but behind him a wilderness of desolation. In Zephaniah, the day of Jehovah is near, a day of wrath is this day, a day of distress and of cramping, a day of wasteness and desolation, a day of darkness and gloom, a day of cloud and thick darkness. The whole land shall be devoured by the fire of the zeal of Jehovah, for I will make a consummation, yea, a speedy one, with all the inhabitants of the land. In Matthew, when ye shall see the abomination of desolation foretold by Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place, then let them that are in Judea flee into the mountains. From these passages it is evident that desolation is the apparent deprivation of truth with those who are being regenerated, but its absolute deprivation with those who are not being regenerated. Continuation concerning the correspondence with the grand man. Here concerning the correspondence of the interior viscera therewith. Number 5377. The subject treated of at the close of the preceding chapter was the correspondence of some of the interior viscera of the body with the grand man, namely of the liver, the pancreas, the stomach, and some others. The subject now continued is the correspondence therewith of the peritoneum, the kidneys, the ureters, the bladder, and also of the intestines. For whatever is in man, both what is in the external man and what is in the internal, has a correspondence with the grand man. Without correspondence therewith, that is, with heaven, or what is the same, with the spiritual world, nothing would ever come into existence and subsist, because it would have no connection with what is prior to itself, nor consequently with the first, that is, with the Lord. What is unconnected and thus independent cannot subsist for a single moment, for it subsists by its connection with and dependence on that from which all things exist, for subsistence is perpetual existence. Hence, not only all things in general and particular in man correspond, but also in the universe. The sun itself corresponds, and also the moon, for in heaven the Lord is the sun and also the moon. The sun's flame and heat and also its light correspond, for it is the Lord's love towards the whole human race to which the flame and heat correspond, and the divine truth to which the light corresponds. The very stars correspond, the communities of heaven and their habitations being what they correspond with, not that they are in the stars, but that they are in a similar order. Whatever appears under the sun corresponds, as each and all of the objects in the animal kingdom, and also in the vegetable kingdom. And unless there were an influx from the spiritual world into each and all, they would instantly collapse and be dissipated. This has been granted me to know by much experience, for I have been shown with what things in the spiritual world, many things in the animal kingdom, and many more in the vegetable kingdom, correspond, and also that without influx they would by no means subsist. For when that which is prior is taken away, that which is posterior necessarily collapses. And the same is the case when what is prior is separated from what is posterior. As there is an especial correspondence of man with heaven, and through heaven with the Lord, a man appears in the other life in the light of heaven according to the nature of his correspondence. Hence the angels appear in ineffable brightness and beauty, but the infernals in inexpressible blackness and deformity. Number 5378. Some spirits came to me, but were silent. After a while, however, they spoke, yet not as many, but all as one. I noticed from their speech that they desired to know everything, and were eager to explain everything, and in this way to confirm themselves in their knowledge. They were modest, and said that they do nothing of themselves, but from others, although it appears to be from them. They were then infested by others, who were said to constitute the province of the kidneys, ureters, and bladder, and whom they answered modestly. Yet these continued to infest and assail them, for such is the nature of the renal spirits. And as they could not prevail against them by their modesty, they resorted to what was natural to them, namely, to enlarging themselves, and thereby causing terror. Thereupon they seemed to become great, but only as one, who so swelled in stature, that like Atlas he seemed to reach to heaven. A spear appeared in his hand, but still he did not wish to do any harm beyond exciting terror. In consequence of this the renal spirits fled away, and then there appeared one who pursued them in their flight, and another who flew in front between the feet of that giant. Moreover, the giant seemed to have wooden shoes, which he threw at the renal spirits. Angels told me that the modest spirits who swelled in size were those who bear relation to the peritoneum. The peritoneum is the common membrane that surrounds and encloses all the viscera of the abdomen, as the pleura does all the viscera of the chest. And as it is so extensive and relatively large, and also elastic, the spirits who belong to this province, when infested by others, are allowed to assume a gigantic appearance, and at the same time to strike terror, especially in those who constitute the province of the kidneys, ureters, and bladder. For these viscera or vessels lie in the folds of the peritoneum, and are constrained by it. The wooden shoes represented the lowest natural things, such as the kidneys, ureters, and bladder absorb and carry off. That shoes are the lowest natural things may be seen at Numbers. And in saying that they do nothing of themselves but from others, these spirits again resemble the peritoneum, which is also of such a nature. 5379. It is also representatively shown what happens when those who constitute the colon intestine infest those who are in the province of the peritoneum. Those who constitute the colon intestine become puffed up, like the colon with its wind, and when they desired to assail those of the peritoneum, it appeared as if a wall were thrown in the way, and when they attempted to overturn the wall, there always arose a new wall. In this manner they were kept away from them. Number 5380. It is known that there are secretions and excretions in a series, from the kidneys down to the bladder. In the first of the series are the kidneys, in the middle of it are the ureters, and in the last is the bladder. Those who constitute these provinces in the grand man are in like manner in a series, and although they are of one genus, they differ as do the species of this genus. They speak with a raucous voice as if cracked, and desire to introduce themselves into the body, but this is only an endeavor. Their situation in respect to the human body is as follows. Those who relate to the kidneys are on the left side close to the body under the elbow. Those who relate to the ureters are to the left farther off from the body, and those who relate to the bladder are still further away. Together they form almost a parabola from the left side towards the front, for in this way they project themselves from the left towards the front, thus in a rather long course. This is one common way to the hells, the other is through the intestines, for both these ways end in the hells. For they who are in the hells correspond to the things excreted by the intestines and the bladder, the falsities and evils in which they are, being nothing but urine and excrement in a spiritual sense. Number 5381. Those who constitute the province of the kidneys, ureters, and bladder in the grand man are of such a disposition that they desire nothing more than to examine and search out the character of others, and some of them are eager to chasten and to punish, provided there is some justice in the case. The functions of the kidneys, ureters, and bladder are of this kind. For they examine the blood thrown into them to see whether there is any useless and hurtful serum in it, which they separate from what is useful, and then correct it. For they drive it lower down, and on the way and afterwards they agitate it in various ways. These are the functions of those who constitute the province of the parts in question. But the spirits and communities of spirits to which the urine itself, especially fetid urine, corresponds, are infernal. For as soon as the urine is separated from the blood, although it is in the tubules of the kidneys or within the bladder, still it is out of the body. For what has been separated no longer circulates in the body, and therefore does not contribute anything to the existence and subsistence of its parts. Number 5382. I have often observed that those who constitute the province of the kidneys and ureters are quick to examine or search out the character of others, what they think and what they will, and that they are eager to find opportunities, and make out others to be guilty of some fault, chiefly in order that they may chasten them. And I have talked with them about this eagerness and intention. Many of this kind in the world had been judges, who rejoiced at heart when they found an occasion which they believed just, to fine, chasten, and punish. The operation of such is felt in the region at the back, where are the kidneys, ureters, and bladder. Those who belong to the bladder stretch out towards Gehenna, where some of them sit, as it were, in judgment. Number 5383. The methods by which they examine or search out the dispositions of others are very numerous, but I may adduce only the following one. They induce other spirits to speak. This in the other life is done by an influx that cannot be intelligibly described. And if the speech they have thus induced follows readily, they judge thereby of the character of the spirits. They also induce a state of affection. But those who examine in this way are among the coarser of them. Others use other methods. There are some who, on approaching, at once perceive another's thoughts, desires, and acts, and also anything he has done that pains him to think of. This they seize upon and also condemn, if they think there is just cause. It is one of the wonders of the other life, incredible to almost all in this world, that as soon as any spirit approaches another, and especially when he approaches a man, he instantly knows his thoughts and affections and what he has been doing, thus all his present state, just as if he had been a long time with him, so perfect is the communication. But there are differences in these perceptions, some spirits perceiving interior things and others perceiving only exterior ones. These latter, if they are eager for knowledge, examine the minds of others by various methods. Number 5384. The methods by which those chasten who constitute the province of the kidneys, ureters, and bladder in the grand man are also various. For the most part they take away joyous and glad things, and induce such as are joyless and sad. By this eagerness these spirits communicate with the hells. But by the justness of the cause, which they inquire into before chastening, they communicate with heaven. For this reason they are kept in this province. Number 5385. All this shows what is signified in the word by the statement that Jehovah tries and searches the reins and the heart, and that the reins chasten, as in Jeremiah. Jehovah trieth the reins and the heart. In the same, Jehovah that trieth the righteous, and seeth the reins and the heart. In David, the just God trieth the hearts and reins. Again, O Jehovah, examine my reins and my heart. Again, Jehovah, thou hast possessed my reins. In the Revelation, I am he that searcheth the reins and the heart. In these passages, spiritual things are signified by the reins, and celestial things by the heart. That is, the things which are of truth are signified by the reins, and those which are of good by the heart. And the reason of this is that the kidneys purify the serum, and the heart purifies the blood itself. Hence, by trying, examining, and searching the reins, is signified to try, examine, and search out the quantity and quality of truth, or the quantity and quality of faith in man. That this is the signification is plain also in Jeremiah. Jehovah, thou art near in their mouth, but far from their reins. And in David, Jehovah, behold, thou desirest truth in the reins. That chastening is attributed to the kidneys is clear also in David. My reins chasten me in the night seasons. Number 5386. There are also secretories and excretories in other parts of the body. In the brain there are ventricles and mammillary processes which carry off the phlegmy substances there. And there are also little glands everywhere, as the mucous and salivary glands in the head, and very many others in the body, and myriads next the cuticles, by which the sweat and more subtle effete matters are thrown off. To these correspond in the spiritual world, to speak generally, obstinate opinions, and also conscientious scruples in unimportant matters. Some of these spirits appear at a moderate distance above the head, and are such that they raise scruples in matters where there need be none. Hence, because they burden the consciences of the simple, they are called conscience-mongers. What true conscience is, they know not, because they make everything that occurs a matter of conscience. For when any scruple or doubt is suggested, if the mind is anxious and dwells on it, there are never wanting things to strengthen the doubt and make it burdensome. When such spirits are present, they also induce a perceptible discomfort in the part of the abdomen immediately under the diaphragm. They are also present with man in temptations. I have talked with them and noticed that they were not sufficiently broad-minded to acquiesce in the more useful and necessary things, for they were unable to listen to reason, being obstinately set in their own opinion. Number 5387. Those who correspond to the urine itself, however, are infernal. For as before said, the urine is out of the body, because already separated from the blood, and in itself is nothing but unclean and used-up serum, which is thrown off. I may relate the following things concerning them. A certain spirit was perceived at first as if within the body, but presently below at the right, and when he stood there he was invisible, having the art to render himself so. When he was questioned, he made no reply whatever. It was said by others that in the life of the body he had been engaged in piratical pursuits. For in the other life it is plainly perceived, from the sphere of the life's affections and thoughts, who and of what character every one has been, because his life remains. He kept changing his place, appearing now at the right and now at the left. I saw that he did this for fear of being detected and forced to make some confession. It was said by other spirits that such men are most timorous at the least sign of danger, and most courageous when there is nothing to fear, and that they are the opposite of those to whom the discharge of the urine corresponds, and strive in every way to injure this process. And that I might have no doubt, it was shown me by experience. When they who correspond to the discharge of the urine withdrew a little, and the pirate stood by, the discharge was completely stopped, and effort was attended with danger. But when they were recalled, the emission of the urine was intensified according to their presence. He afterwards confessed that he had been a pirate, and said that he could then artfully hide himself, and by cunning and activity elude his pursuers, and that he now loves urinous filth much more than clear water, and that the fetid smell of urine is what most delights him, so much so that he wishes to have his abode in pools, or even in casks, of fetid urine. It was shown also what sort of face he had. It was not really a face, but something with a black beard in place of one. Afterwards other pirates also, who were not so active, were sent for, who also spoke but little, and, strange to say, gnashed their teeth. They too said that they love urine more than all other liquids, and fetid urine the most. These, however, had not something bearded for a face, as the first had, but a kind of dreadful grate of teeth, for the beard and teeth signify the lowest natural things. Their being without a face signifies that they have no rational life, because when no face appears it is a sign that there is no correspondence of the mind with the grand man. For in the other life every one appears in the light of heaven in accordance with his correspondence, and hence the infernals appear in horrible deformity. Number 5388. A certain spirit was with me, talking with me, who in the life of the body had had no faith, and he had not believed in any life after death. He also had been one of the dexterous. He could captivate the minds of others by flattery and approbation, on which account his character was not apparent at first from his discourse. He could also talk with volubility like a stream, and like a good spirit. But his character was first known by his not liking to speak about matters of faith and charity. For then he could not follow in thought, but drew back. And it was afterwards perceived from several indications that he had been an approver for the purpose of deceiving. For approvals are according to ends. If the end is friendship, or the pleasure of conversation, or the like, or even rightful gain, there is not much harm in it. But if the end is to elicit secrets, and thereby bind another to evil services, in general if the end is to do harm, it is evil. Such was the end this spirit had in view, and he was also in opposition to those who are in the province of the kidneys and ureters. He too said that he loved the smell of urine above all other odors, and he caused a painful contraction or cramp in the lower region of the belly. Number 5389. There are troops of spirits who wander about, and by turns come back to the same places. Evil spirits greatly fear them, for they subject them to a kind of torture. I was informed that they correspond to the fundus or upper part of the bladder in general, and to the muscular ligaments converging therefrom toward the sphincter, where the urine is driven out by a kind of contortion. These spirits apply themselves to the part of the back where is the cauda equina. Their mode of operating is by quick movements to and fro, which no one can stop. It is a method of tightening and restriction directed upwards and pointed in the form of a cone. The evil spirits who are thrown within this cone, especially at the upper part, are miserably tormented by being twisted to and fro. Number 5390. There are other spirits also who correspond to unclean excretions, namely such as in the world have been tenacious of revenge. These appear to me in front to the left. To these unclean excretions also correspond those who debase spiritual things to unclean earthly ones. Such spirits came to me and brought with them filthy thoughts, from which they spoke filthy things, and also warped and perverted clean things into unclean. Many of this kind had belonged to the lowest orders, and some to people of higher station in the world, who during their bodily life had not indeed so spoken in company, but still had so thought, for they had refrained from speaking as they thought, lest they should come to shame, and lose friendship, profit, and honor. Nevertheless, among their like, when free from restraint, their conversation had been similar to that of the lowest orders, and even fouler, because they possessed a certain intellectual capacity, which they misused to defile even the holy things of the word and of doctrine. Number 5391. There are also kidneys called the subsidiary kidneys or renal capsules. Their function is to secrete not so much the serum as the blood itself, and to transmit the purer blood towards the heart by a short circuit, and thus prevent the spermatic vessels which are near from carrying off all the purer blood. But these organs perform their main work in embryos and also in newborn infants. It is chaste virgins who constitute this province in the grand man. Prone to anxieties and fearful of being disturbed, they remain quiet at the lower left side of the body. If there is any thought about heaven or about a change of their state, they become anxious and sigh, as I have several times been granted plainly to feel. When I was led to think about infants, they felt great comfort and inward joy, which they frankly confessed. And when there was any thought that had nothing heavenly in it, they were distressed. Their anxiety comes chiefly from their being prone to keep their thoughts fixed on one subject, and not to dispel anxious feelings by variety. The reason why they belong to this province is that in this way they keep another's lower mind fixed on certain thoughts, whence such things arise and show themselves as cohere in a series, and are to be drawn away, or from which the man is to be purified. In this way also interior things lie in plainer view to the angels. For when such things as obscure and turn away the thoughts are removed, there results a clearer insight and influx. Number 5392. Who they are that constitute the province of the intestines in the grand man may be seen to some extent from those who relate to the stomach. For the intestines are continued from the stomach, and the functions of the stomach become there more vigorous and drastic down to the last intestines, which are the colon and rectum. For which reason those who are in these are near the hells, called excrementitious. Those in the region of the stomach and intestines are in the earth of lower things. Having brought with them from the world unclean things that cling to their thoughts and affections, they are kept there for some time, until such things have been wiped away, that is, cast aside. After this is done, they can be taken up into heaven. Those who are there are not as yet in the grand man, for they are like food taken into the stomach, which is not admitted into the blood, and thus into the body, until it has been cleared of dregs. They who have been defiled with more earthly dregs are under these in the region of the intestines. But the excrements themselves that are discharged correspond to the hells, called excrementitious. Number 5393. It is well known that the colon intestine spreads out wide, and so do those who are in this province. They spread out in front towards the left in a curved line, leading to a hell. In that hell are they who have been merciless, and who without conscience have desired to destroy mankind, that is, to kill and plunder them without respect or distinction of persons, whether they resist or not, and whether they are men or women. Of such a ferocious disposition are a great part of the soldiery and their officers, who, not in battle but after it, rage ferociously against the conquered and unarmed, and kill and despoil them in their fury. I have conversed with angels about such men, as to what they are when left to themselves and permitted to act freely without the restraint of law, how they are much more savage than the worst wild beasts, which do not so rush to the destruction of their own species, but merely defend themselves and appease their hunger with their allotted food, and when sated do no such things. It is otherwise with the man who acts thus from cruelty and ferocity. The angels were horrified that there should be men of such a nature, as especially to rejoice at heart and be elated in mind when they see the whole field strewn with fallen troops and reeking with blood, not rejoicing that their country has been freed, but only at being themselves lauded as great men and heroes. And yet they call themselves Christians, and even believe that they will go to heaven, where there is nothing but peace, mercy, and charity. Such are in the hell of the colon and rectum. But those of them who had some humanity appear in front to the left in a curved line, within a kind of wall. Yet there is still much of the love of self in them. If any of these have a regard for what is good, this is sometimes represented by little stars rather ruddy than white in color. A wall appeared to me as it were of plaster with moulded figures near the left elbow, which wall became more extended and at the same time higher the upper part verging in color to sky blue, and I was told that this was a representative of some spirits of this kind who were better. Number 5394. They who have been cruel and adulterers in the other life love nothing so well as filth and excrements, the stenches from such things being most sweet and delightful to them, and preferable to all other delights. The reason is that these things correspond. These hells are partly under the buttocks, partly under the right foot, and partly deep down in front. These are the hells into which the way by the rectum intestine leads. A certain spirit being conveyed thither, and speaking with me therefrom, said that nothing was to be seen there but privies. They who were in the place spoke to him, and led him to various privies, which were very numerous. He was afterwards led to another place a little to the left, and when there, he said that a most dreadful stench exhaled from the caverns there, and that he could not stir a step without nearly falling into some cavern. A cadaverous stench also was exhaled from the caverns, the reason being that they who were there were cruel and deceitful, to whom a cadaverous stench is most delightful. But these will be described in the following pages, where the hells, and specifically the excrementitious and cadaverous hells, are described. Number 5395. There are some who live, not to be of use to their country or to its communities, but only for themselves, taking no delight in public employments, but only in being honoured and courted, to which end they indeed seek office, and also in eating, drinking, making merry, and conversing with no other object than pleasure. Such men in the other life cannot possibly associate with good spirits, still less with angels. For in these the use causes the delight, and according to the use is the quantity and quality of the delight. For the Lord's kingdom is nothing but a kingdom of uses. And if in an earthly kingdom everyone is valued and honored according to his use, how much more so in the heavenly kingdom? They who have lived solely for themselves and pleasure without any useful object are also under the buttocks, and pass their time in sordid things according to their various pleasures and objects. Number 5396. By way of appendix, I may relate what follows. There was a numerous crowd of spirits about me that sounded like a disorderly stream. They were complaining that everything was going to destruction, for nothing in that crowd appeared organized, and this made them fear destruction. They also supposed that it would be total destruction, as is the case in such circumstances. But in the midst of them I perceived a soft sound, angelically sweet, suggesting nothing but order. Angelic choirs were there within, and the disorderly crowd of spirits was without. This angelic strain continued a long time, and I was told that it betokened how the Lord rules confused and disorderly exteriors from what is peaceful in their midst, regulating the disorders in the circumference by restraining each from the error of its own nature. Chapter the 42nd, verse 1. And Jacob saw that there was produce in Egypt, and Jacob said to his sons, Why do ye look at one another? 2. And he said, Behold, I have heard that there is produce in Egypt. Get you down thither, and buy thence for us, and we shall live and not die. 3. And Joseph's 10 brethren went down to buy corn from Egypt. 4. And Benjamin, Joseph's brother, Jacob sent not with his brethren, for he said, Peradventure mischief may befall him. 5. And the sons of Israel came to buy in the midst of those that came, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. 6. And Joseph was the governor over the land. He it was that sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brethren came and bowed down themselves to him with their faces to the earth. 7. And Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them, but made himself strange unto them, and spake hard things to them. And he said unto them, Whence came ye? And they said, From the land of Canaan to buy food. 8. And Joseph knew his brethren, but they knew not him. 9. And Joseph remembered the dreams that he dreamed of them, and said unto them, Ye are spies, to see the nakedness of the land ye are come. 10. And they said unto him, Nay, my lord, but to buy food are thy servants come. 11. We are all one man's sons. We are upright, thy servants are no spies. 12. And he said unto them, Nay, but to see the nakedness of the land ye are come. 13. And they said, We thy servants are 12 brethren, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. And behold, the youngest is this day with our father, and one is not. 14. And Joseph said unto them, This is it that I spake unto you, saying, Ye are spies. 15. Hereby ye shall be proved, and by the life of Pharaoh ye shall not go forth hence, except your youngest brother come hither. 16. Send one of you, and let him get your brother, and ye shall be bound, and your words shall be proved, whether there be truth with you, or else by the life of Pharaoh surely ye are spies. 17. And he shut them up in custody 3 days. 18. And Joseph said unto them on the 3rd day, This do and live, I fear God. 19. If ye be upright, let one of your brethren be bound in the house of your custody, and go ye, bring produce for the famine of your houses. 20. And bring your youngest brother unto me, and your words shall be verified, and ye shall not die. And they did so. 21. And they said each to his brother, We are surely guilty concerning our brother, in that we saw the distress of his soul when he besought us, and we would not hear. Therefore is this distress come unto us. 22. And Reuben answered them, saying, Spake I not unto you, saying, Do not sin against the child, and ye would not hearken? Therefore, behold, his blood is required. 23. And they knew not that Joseph heard them, for there was an interpreter between them. 24. And he turned about from them, and wept. And he returned to them, and spake unto them, and took Simeon from them, and bound him before their eyes. 25. And Joseph commanded to fill their vessels with corn, and to restore every one silver into his sack, and to give them provision for the way. And he did thus to them. 26. And they lifted their supplies upon their asses, and went thence. 27. And one opened his sack to give his ass provender in the inn, and he saw his silver, and behold, it was in the mouth of his bag. 28. And he said unto his brethren, My silver is restored, and lo, it is even in my bag. And their heart failed, and they trembled, saying each to his brother, What is this that God hath done to us? 29. And they came unto Jacob their father to the land of Canaan, and told him all that had befallen them, saying, 30. The man, the lord of the land, spake hard things to us, and took us for spies of the land. 31. And we said unto him, We are upright, we are no spies. 32. We are 12 brethren, sons of our father. one is not, and the youngest is this day with our father in the land of Canaan. 33. And the man, the lord of the land, said unto us, Hereby shall I know that ye are upright. Let one of your brethren remain with me, and take for the famine of your houses, and go. 34. And bring your youngest brother unto me. Then shall I know that ye are no spies, but that ye are upright. I will give you your brother, and ye shall go about trading in the land. 35. And it came to pass, as they emptied their sacks, behold, every one's bundle of silver was in his sack. And they saw the bundles of their silver, they and their father, and they were afraid. 36. And Jacob their father said unto them, Me have ye bereaved. Joseph is not, and Simeon is not, and ye will take Benjamin. All these things are come upon me. 37. And Reuben spake unto his father, saying, Slay my 2 sons, if I bring him not to thee. Give him into my hand, and I will bring him unto thee again. 38. And he said, My son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he only is left. And mischief will befall him in the way wherein ye shall go, and ye will make my grey hairs go down in sorrow to the grave. The contents. Number 5396. In the latter part of the last chapter, the subject was the influx and conjunction of the celestial of the spiritual with the external knowledges in the natural. And now the subject is the influx and conjunction of the celestial of the spiritual with the truths of faith therein, which are of the Church. Number 5397. First is described the endeavor to appropriate these truths by means of the external knowledges of the Church, which are Egypt, and without the intermediate, which is Benjamin, together with truth from the divine, which is Joseph, but in vain. Wherefore they were sent back, and some good of natural truth was given freely. The internal sense. Number 5398. In this chapter, and in those which follow about Joseph and the sons of Jacob, in the internal sense is described the regeneration of the natural as to the truths and goods of the Church, that this is not effected by means of external knowledges, but by influx from the divine. At the present day, they who are of the Church know hardly anything about regeneration. They do not even know that regeneration goes on through the whole course of life of one who is being regenerated, and that it is continued in the other life, or that the mysteries of regeneration are so innumerable that scarcely a 10,000th part of them can be known by the angels, and that those the angels do know constitute their intelligence and wisdom. The reason why members of the Church at this day know so little about regeneration is that they talk so much about remission of sins and about justification, and believe that sins are remitted in a moment, and some believe that they are wiped away like filth from the body by water, and that man is justified by faith alone, or by the confidence of a single moment. The reason of this belief is that they do not know what sin or evil is. If they knew this, they would know that sins can by no means be wiped away from anyone, but that when the man is kept in good by the Lord, they are separated or rejected to the sides, so as not to emerge, and that this cannot be effected unless evil is continually cast out, and this by means which are unlimited in number, and for the most part indescribable. Those in the other life who have brought with them the opinion that man is justified in a moment by faith and wholly cleansed from sins, are astounded when they see that regeneration is effected by means unlimited in number and indescribable, and they then deride and call insane the ignorance in which they had been in the world, in regard to the instantaneous remission of sins and justification. They are sometimes told that the Lord remits the sins of those who desire it from the heart. Yet they are not thereby separated from the diabolical crew, to whom they are held fast by the evils attending their life, which remains with them in its entirety. They then learn by experience that to be separated from the hells is to be separated from sins, and that this cannot be done except in thousands and thousands of ways, known to the Lord only. And this, if you will believe it, in a continual succession to eternity. For man is so evil that he cannot to eternity be fully delivered from even one sin, but can only by the mercy of the Lord, if he has received it, be withheld from sin and kept in good. In what manner therefore man receives new life and is regenerated is contained in the sanctuary of the Word, that is, in its internal sense, chiefly to the end that when the Word is being read by man, the angels may thereby be in the happiness of wisdom, and also be at the same time in the delight of serving as means. In this and the following chapters about Joseph's brethren, the subject treated of in the supreme internal sense is the glorification of the Lord's natural, and in the representative sense, the regeneration by the Lord of the natural in man, here as to the truths of the Church therein. Number 5399, verses 1 through 5. And Jacob saw that there was produce in Egypt, and Jacob said to his sons, Why do ye look at one another? And he said, Behold, I have heard that there is produce in Egypt. Get you down thither, and buy thence for us, and we shall live and not die. And Joseph's 10 brethren went down to buy corn from Egypt. And Benjamin, Joseph's brother, Jacob sent not with his brethren, for he said, Peradventure mischief may befall him. And the sons of Israel came to buy in the midst of those that came, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. And Jacob saw signifies the things of faith. Jacob signifies the natural as to the truth, which is of the Church. That there was produce in Egypt signifies a disposition to procure truths by means of external knowledges, which are Egypt. And Jacob said to his sons signifies perception regarding truths in general. Why do ye look at one another signifies why did they stop. And he said, Behold, I have heard that there is produce in Egypt, signifies that truths can be procured by means of external knowledges. Get you down thither and buy for us from thence, signifies appropriation by means of them. And we shall live and not die, signifies spiritual life thereby. And they went down, signifies endeavor and act. Joseph's 10 brethren signifies such truths of the Church as corresponded. To buy corn from Egypt signifies to appropriate to themselves the good of truth by means of external knowledges. But Benjamin, Joseph's brother, signifies the spiritual of the celestial, which is the intermediate. Jacob sent not with his brethren, signifies that they were without this intermediate. For he said, Peradventure mischief may befall him, signifies that without the celestial of the spiritual, which is Joseph, it would perish. And the sons of Israel came to buy in the midst of those that came, signifies that it desired that spiritual truths, like all others, should be procured by means of external knowledges. For the famine was in the land of Canaan, signifies that there was desolation as to the things of the Church in the natural. Number 5400. And he saw. This signifies the things of faith, as is evident from the signification of seeing, namely the things of faith. For spiritual sight abstracted from the things of the world is nothing but a perception of truth, or of the things of faith, and therefore in the internal sense nothing else is signified by seeing. For the internal sense emerges when the things of the world are removed, because the internal sense relates to the things of heaven. The light of heaven, which gives sight there, is divine truth from the Lord, which appears to the eyes of the angels as light, 1,000 times brighter than the midday light in the world. And as this light has life in it, it illumines not only the eyesight of the angels, but also the sight of their understanding, and induces a perception of truth in accordance with the amount and nature of the good in which they are. As in the internal sense of this chapter are described the things of faith, or the truths of the Church, therefore at the very beginning of the chapter it is said that he saw, and his seeing signifies the things of faith. Number 5401. Jacob. This signifies the natural as to the truth of the Church, as is evident from the representation of Jacob, namely, the doctrine of truth in the natural, and in the supreme sense, the Lord's natural as to truth. Number 5402. That there was produce in Egypt. This signifies a disposition to procure truths by means of external knowledges which are Egypt, as is evident from the signification of produce, namely the truths of the Church, or the truths of faith. That plenty denotes the multiplication of truth may be seen above, and from the signification of Egypt, namely external knowledges, and in the true sense the external knowledges of the Church. That a disposition to procure these things is involved is plain from what presently follows. By the external knowledges of the Church, which here are Egypt, are meant all knowledges of truth and good, before they have been conjoined with the interior man, or through the interior man with heaven, and thus through heaven with the Lord. The doctrinals of the Church and its rituals, as also the knowledge of what spiritual things these represent and how, and the like, are nothing but external knowledges, until the man has seen from the Word whether they are true, and in this way has made them his own. There are two ways of procuring the truths of faith, by means of doctrinals and by means of the Word. When man procures them only by doctrinals, he then has faith in those who have drawn them from the Word, and he confirms them as true because others have said so. Thus he does not believe them from his own faith, but from that of others. But when he procures them for himself from the Word, and thereby confirms them as true, he then believes them because they are from the divine, and thus believes them from faith given from the divine. Every one within the Church first procures the truths of faith from doctrinals, and also must so procure them, because he has not yet sufficient strength of judgment to enable him to see them himself from the Word. But in this case these truths are to him nothing but external knowledges. But when he is able to view them from his own judgment, unless he then consults the Word in order to see from it whether they are true, they remain in him as external knowledges. But if he does consult the Word with the desire and object of knowing truths, he then, when he has found them, procures for himself the things of faith from the true fountain, and they are appropriated to him from the divine. These and other like things are here treated of in the internal sense, for Egypt denotes these external knowledges, and Joseph is truth from the divine, thus truth from the Word. Number 5403. And Jacob said to his sons. This signifies perception regarding truths in general, as is evident from the signification of saying in the histories of the Word, namely perception, and from the signification of sons, namely the truths of faith. And because they were sons of Jacob, truths in general are signified. For by Jacob's 12 sons, as by the 12 tribes, were signified all things of faith, thus truths in general. Number 5404. Why do ye look at one another? This signifies why did they stop, as may be seen without explanation. Number 5405. And he said, Behold, I have heard that there is produce in Egypt. This signifies that truths can be procured by means of external knowledges, as may be seen from what was explained just above, where it was shown that by there being produce in Egypt is signified a disposition to procure truths by means of external knowledges, which are Egypt, and also what is meant by the external knowledges which are Egypt. Produce is here expressed in the original language by a word that means breaking, and a similar word also means buying and selling, where it is said that Jacob's sons bought it in Egypt, and that Joseph sold it there. The reason of this is that in the ancient church bread was broken when given to another, and this signified to communicate good from one's own, and to appropriate it from one's own, thus to make love mutual. For when bread is broken and given to another, it is communicated from one's own. Or when bread is broken among several, then the one piece of bread becomes a mutual possession, and consequently there is conjunction through charity. From this it is plain that the breaking of bread was significative of mutual love. As this rite was accepted and customary in the ancient church, the breaking itself meant produce that was made common. That bread is the good of love may be seen above. It was for this reason that the Lord brake the bread when he gave it, as in Matthew. Jesus took the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes, and looking up to heaven, he blessed and brake, and gave the bread to the disciples. In the same, Jesus took the 7 loaves and the fishes, and he gave thanks and brake, and gave to his disciples, and the disciples to the multitude. Again, Jesus took bread and blessed and brake it, and gave to the disciples, and said, Take, eat, this is my body. In Luke, it came to pass when the Lord was reclining with them, he took the bread and blessed it, and brake and gave to them. And their eyes were opened, and they knew him. And the disciples told how the Lord was known of them in the breaking of the bread. In Isaiah, This is the fast that I choose, to break thy bread to the hungry. Number 5406. Get you down thither, and buy for us thence. This signifies appropriation by means of them, as is evident from the signification of going down, as being said of going towards exterior things, see below, and from the signification of buying, namely appropriation. That this is effected by means of external knowledges is signified by thence, that is, from Egypt. That Egypt denotes external knowledges has been shown above. In the word we often read of going up and going down when going from one place to another is spoken of, not because one place was more elevated than the other, but because going up is predicated of a tendency towards what is interior or higher, and going down of a tendency to what is exterior or lower. That is to say, going up is predicated of a tendency towards spiritual and celestial things, for these are interior, and are also believed to be higher. And going down is predicated of a tendency towards natural and earthly things, for these are exterior, and are also in appearance lower. For this reason, not only here but also everywhere else in the Word, we read of going down from the land of Canaan to Egypt, and of going up from Egypt to the land of Canaan. For the land of Canaan signifies what is heavenly, and Egypt what is natural. For the land of Canaan in the representative sense is the heavenly kingdom, and consequently celestial and spiritual goods and truths, which also are interiorly in the man who is a kingdom of the Lord. While Egypt, in the representative sense, is the natural kingdom, and consequently the goods and truths which are of the external church, and are for the most part external knowledges. That going up is predicated of a tendency towards interior things may be seen above.